Hello, my lovely little daffodils. It's been a hot minute. I am so sorry for not posting last month. Testing season was very stressful, but now that we have hit summer, I will try and post a little bit more in June and July, but I can't make any promises. Anyways, before I go on to discuss what's in this video, you might have noticed that my YouTube channel's name has changed from Silver Daggers to Marigold Ashes. So now, instead of calling myself Silver, I'm going to call myself Mar. So now that that is out of the way, I want to talk about some lore from my OC universe. Since I do not have the main cast ready yet, I am going to talk about some events prior to my cast getting involved, and I will also reveal the designs for the remaining gods and my main antagonist. So, without further ado, let's get right on to the yapping. So, first things first, I'm going to do things a little bit differently. I have 3 speed paints to show you guys, and instead of having it so that the finished product is shown at the end of each speed paint, I'm going to show the end products for all 3 of them at the end of the video. So, now that that's out of the way, I'm going to explain the important piece of lore that is being drawn in the background right now. One of the big things for my OC universe is that I want eyes to have a big role in it. In this, the way a creature's eyes look shows how much humanity they have. For example, humans have black pupils, white scleras, and colored irises, which means that they have the most humanity, which makes sense since they're humans. However, gods would only have colored scleras, which show that they lack humanity, and my antagonist has no eyes, showing that they're evil. Really, the only exception to this rule are nymphs, since they're nature spirits and aren't really having humanity. They more rely on nature and all of that. The only other exception is any other monsters without eyes. For world building, since I want this to kind of be like Earth, but not really, I decided to change the name from Earth to Erda. Erda is an old Germanic word that pretty much means earth and ground. So kind of similar, but not really. I would also want many of the buildings to be inspired by ancient Greek architecture, but obviously kind of more amped up to the modern day, with much of Greek history and art being lost to time. The way people act, think of it kind of like that song Evil People by Set It Off. So yeah, things aren't great. Kind of on par with real life. But the real question would be, how did Erda get to this point? To this state? Well, it would start in 146 BC/BCE. Why that year? Well, that year in particular is when the Roman army finally defeated Corinth and conquered Greece. When this happened, an entity, my main antagonist, emerged, the embodiment of hubris, the fatal flaw of mortals, demigods, and gods alike. A creature that started as a spawn of Zeus, before his own arrogance had spread and infected everyone and everything around him like a disgusting parasite. This thing took on a form and a name, Vesper. When it arose, it moved swiftly and killed Hades and Persephone in the underworld. After that, it moved on to Olympus, unexpectedly killing Hera and Poseidon before Zeus's very own eyes before killing him too. When it killed all of the rulers, it offered the Olympian and underworld gods a choice, to join it in its new kingdom or die. 3 gods decided to join, but planned to betray Vesper later. I'll get to them soon. The only other ones who are spared are the Primordials, the Fates, most of the Titans since they're imprisoned, Circe and Calypso since they're on separate islands. The Fates, before they decided not to speak to Vesper again, gave a prophecy, a word of warning to them, similar to the warning that was given to Kronos and Zeus. One day, a group of heroes would be reborn from the ashes and would try to overthrow it and end its reign. This made Vesper paranoid, and shortly after, it absorbed most of the remaining 3 Olympian gods' powers so that they could not help these heroes when the time came. So that's pretty much it. I want to talk a little bit more about Vesper in particular, the embodiment of hubris. The name is quite contradictory. It actually means evening star in Latin. Why did I do this? Well, I did this to kind of sort of resemble the name of the devil from the Bible, Lucifer. His name means morning star and bringer of light. Since he's often associated with the sin of pride, I thought it would be interesting to give Vesper that name since it's something sort of bright to contrast Vesper's real intentions. Also because Vesper is the embodiment of hubris, which basically means excessive pride. This can be expanded even to Vesper's color palette. I was originally going to do purple, yellow, and orange, but that didn't quite feel right. So instead, I did blue, which can be used to show that a person is trustworthy, and also red, which often shows as a color for danger, with a little bit of gold as an accent, just to add some pizzazz. So, quick rundown of the personality. Vesper is pretty much evil. It will use anything and anyone to get what it wants. It has the power of manipulation and often exploits negative emotions. It can possess creatures, leaving behind this sticky black goo all over them. Despite the warning from the Fates, Vesper acts rather reckless and is quite arrogant, which is pretty much par for the course with being the embodiment of pride. You can see that it has disembodied limbs and no eyes, just a thin smile. I wanted to make it seem less and less human. Also, the weapon of choice, which will pop up soon, is a spatha, which is a sword that is basically a longer gladius and was one of the primary weapons that was used by the Roman cavalry, which I think is pretty fitting since Vesper rose to power when Rome conquered Greece. The last thing I want to talk about is the small concept drawing I did in the corner. I have this drawing idea for Vesper where it is in the pose of the statue of Perseus holding up the head of Medusa. I wanted to add a small little idea because it's been something I've been thinking about for a while, but I haven't really gone through with the idea, you know? So I think I might actually do a drawing of this one day. I just haven't really gone the distance with it, you could say. Anyways, I think that is all I have to say about Vesper from what I remember. So yeah, now I want to talk about the remaining gods, because believe it or not, there are some. So originally I wanted to have more than 3 gods remaining in the crew. The reason it is such a little number is because 1, it's more realistic, 2, I couldn't think of more roles that more than 3 remaining gods could play, and 3 is a magical number, so bada bing bada boom. Perhaps somebody else could have made more than 3 remaining gods work, but for right now, it'll just be 3. So now the question is, who are the gods that remain? Well, those 3 gods are Athena, the goddess of wisdom, Ares, the god of war, and Hermes, the god of messengers. From what I've seen, and also based on my own interpretation of Greek mythology, Hermes and Athena often seem to be the closest to Zeus. However, in this, I wouldn't want Athena to betray Vesper to honor Zeus. I would want it so that she's betraying Vesper to save Erda from evil. And of course, we can't have war without Ares, you know? While he is often seen as Zeus's least favorite, hearing of a possible war excites him and he will do anything to honor his mother Hera. As for Hermes, he's not doing it for any god in particular. He didn't care for Zeus as a ruler, and he sure as hell doesn't like Vesper on the throne. Alright, so let's move on. So you know how I said that the Fates gave a word of warning which made Vesper paranoid and drained the 3 gods' powers so that they wouldn't be strong enough to rise up? Well, very few of the basic powers were left. These powers include teleportation, shapeshifting, and a little bit of their weaker abilities that come with their associations. So obviously, the gods can't be helping our main cast in their godly forms, so let's put those shapeshifting powers to use. In order to blend in, our gods will be disguising as humans, and their designs will be inspired by my old designs of them when they were god reincarnates. On top of this, they will also be keeping the names of their old reincarnate names. So, Athena will be Sage, Ares will be Gunner, and Hermes will be Angelo. So, technically, their speed paint is a little bit more of a redesign than anything. Okay, so apparently that was all I had for the script. So now we're going a little bit off script. So I think the only really major thing that changed in general was probably the color palette for Angelo. I think before it was more blues and purples for some reason, and now instead I'm going more towards the green, especially the green, and a little bit of orange and yellow. Everything else is kept pretty much the same, and then I decided, since they're gods, I didn't want their eyes to look like a human's, so I went the demigod route. Like the demigods, Sage, Gunnar, and Angelo, when they're in those disguises, have the white sclera and the colored irises, but no pupils, to kind of give them that a little bit of a unsettling look, you know? So, anyways, sorry if I sound a little funny. I got wisdom teeth pulled out, so my mouth hurts. So I think that's all I wanted to say for now. In the next video, I'm going to do a little speed paint for Pride Month. So yeah, it'll be one of the first looks you'll get into some designs I have for my characters. One more thing I forgot to add. I forgot to add the fact the remaining god sexualities. Their pronouns will be displayed, but I didn't add their flags until later. Athena is aro ace, Ares is straight, and Hermes is bi. So yeah, I think that's all I want to say for now. I will let the rest of this run through. Have a lovely rest of your day, my little daffodils, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!